All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Johnny. This is Comics Altruism. And tonight I'm interviewing Fatal Charades creators Daryl Sawatsky, the writer of that project, and Bob Little, the artist. We just got a bunch of stuff to go through. We may as well start with the fact that, if there are any people tuning in right now, it's possibly because you have a chance to win an original piece of Bob Little art, which he's going to be inking for you tonight. Yeah, there he is, right there.
People are in right now, John. How many
What's
people?
that?
How many people do we have now logged in suddenly?
Oh, I think it's like 45 people.
Nice.
Yeah. And they're all completely silent, which is weird. But
We'll start talking.
yeah. All right. So we're starting off with that. Bob, were you able to do two pieces, or are you just sticking to the one?
I've got two, so I'm going to do two. But for the sake of time, I'm going to ink one tonight. So
perfect.
When I change my camera around, I'll show both.
Right on.
I'll link the first one that I showed you guys.
Yeah, so I guess we may as well just open it with all the different ways you can enter into the contest. The first one is just being here, leaving a comment during the live stream. That option becomes unavailable to anybody after the stream, but if you're watching in replay, you can still enter. Just you won't get that that particular avenue to win Bob's art. The other options are down below in the description. First one is you follow and like Bob's Instagram account. Just pick a post and say, I won in the contest, and he'll see that, and then he'll notify me. Same thing for the Fatal Charades Instagram, the Fatal Charades Facebook. That's 3. The big one is to back the project, because that's an immediate 3 entries, and just leave it in the comments below that you back the project. You don't have to be a brand new backer. It's not one of those. If you're already backing and you want Bob's work, just leave a comment saying you want in the contest and that you backed, and then obviously let us know about the whole Instagram, Facebook thing, the social media growing. I guess I may as well show, since we were just talking about this, I may as well show off some of the stuff that I just got at Heroes Comics here in London. They have a 50% off back issue sale. I'm trying to decide which 3 books I want to give away. So I'm going to show it to you guys. If you want to decide for me, that would be fantastic, because I can't. So the first, I'm going to go solo.
Do I get any of these?
Well, I'll tell you what, if nobody actually wins, then, and by the way, the way to win these, it goes with the first piece of art that Bob's doing, not the one that's exclusive to Fatal Charades backers on Kickstarter. That's what I forgot to mention. The second piece of art is only available to backers. So if you're watching this in replay, you like the second piece better or something, just throw your name in there as well with the whole, I've backed, and you'll automatically be entered to the second piece. All right, so the first 3 set of comics is Avengers, what is that? 223. The only reason for this to be a big book is just because of the cover. Everybody knows the cover, iconic. Second one in that lot is Ms. Marvel #1. It's ridiculous because the print run on that book was huge, and yet it's still going for $20 now because things, that whole Disney Plus. And then this one, Uncanny X-Men #248. That's the first Jim Lee art on the X-Men title. Again, that's considered a key comic. So there's those 3 is lot #1. Lot #2, because Moon Knight's a big deal right now. You wouldn't believe what I paid for this, but it's Moon Knight #12. That's the first appearance of Morpheus in Marvel Comics, or in any comics, I guess. So that's a big book right now. The other one, or another one, is X-Men 166. That's the first appearance of Lockheed. That's not that big a deal, but in this condition, it was an amazing find. A book that old. And another one that's... What's that?
I'm proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you.
I can tell you feel proud about it too.
I do, actually. And then there's this one, which it's got a few tiny spine ticks, but for a foil cover to still be in the condition that it's in, nice and shiny. Spectacular Spider-Man 200.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's lot #2. What do you guys think? You got any input?
This is fantastic. You're giving away legit stuff here.
Yeah,
man.
So those ones.
I'm putting my vote in for lot 2.
Lot 2?
Yep.
What do you think, John? What do you like the best out of those?
Well, I mean, that's the problem I was having was that it's really hard to choose which ones I want to give away because actually all of these are doubles for me. So it's just because I found them at that sale. I'm like, there's no way that this is here for that
I
price.
see what you're doing here.
Yeah. Well, I will say though that all of my other ones, they are not in that condition. So I'm giving away the good ones.
Fair enough. No, that's cool. I'll go with Daryl on this one.
Cool.
With my
So
initial
that's a
Team
nice
Fantasy
lot
Picks.
going to whoever wins that first piece of art.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so yeah, let's get into the actual interview part. We just spent a long time talking about the prizes.
No, that's a good thing, man.
All right, I got to give you the screen back, like so. All right, so first, tell me about the history of your creative team. When did you meet? I mean, it's kind of weird talking about it, but yeah, tell me.
It's great.
Yeah,
I
that whole
love that
thing.
you asked that question too. I'm gonna let Daryl maybe field this one, but yeah, we've been friends forever. I think Daryl, we've been friends since grade 3, and John, you moved to Woodstock in grade 4.
I did.
remember.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we going back to what, the late 80s, is it, boys? To date ourselves.
I think it would be for you. Yeah,
Yeah, 89 then?
probably.
Yeah.
Not that we were making comics back in grade 3.
Right.
Although we were drawing comics. Like we were drawing comic style pictures, but yeah.
True that.
Emulating, yeah, as best we could.
How did we end up making a comic, Daryl? What was the start of this?
Oh geez, this would have been, actually, I believe we can lay this one at the feet of Mr. Johnny Cassidy himself, for being someone who started making comics before we did. He started out with Klondike, Sasquatch Klondike. For those of you out there who don't know, that's through Tardigrade Press. You can find that book on tardigradepress.net to this day, and Johnny wrote it. He actually, the people at Tardigrade, including Johnny at the time, were looking for some more creative teams, and there was a part of me that had been encouraged since I was a little kid to be a writer in different ways by different teachers and stuff, telling me, you know, this is good. You should go for this. I listened at varying degrees, but didn't know how really to go about becoming a writer. I didn't have a great idea for a novel. I didn't have anything other than the ability to write well. So eventually the idea came to try giving comics a go. And I had the same love of every boy as a kid of Spider-Man and Wolverine and the X-Men, most especially, Avengers. So there was that part of me that was reignited again to dive into that world and to give it a go. So for the most part, I just sat there and thought about stuff like, what kind of story do I want to tell? And that was based on the stories that I read, and my personal history is very much grounded in the literary world of fantasy. I'm a big fan of guys like Patrick Rothfuss, Stephen Erickson, George R.R. Martin, a lot of the bigger names, Joe Abercrombie. Just some of the hardcore fantasy, high fantasy dudes that are out there writing right now have inspired me a great deal to want to, take a shot at it myself. So I sat around ruminating about this. Sorry, this is a really long explanation. I sat around ruminating about this for a while, and then one night I just sketched this quick picture of a character named Jack. He's like a fox man, and he is he was in a scene where the princess, our main character, Dacia, was pleading for help. And you could see Jack, and it was a terrible drawing. And I posted it to a group chat that we had going, and Bob saw it. He was in that chat, and he took it and he redid it as an artist would. And after I saw it, I was like, "Do you want to just do this? Let's do this." and he was like, "Okay."
I was hesitant at first because I was thinking, man, I'm already pressed for time, like with teaching art, the kids, stuff like that. But You guys pulled me in, and yeah, back into what you were backtracking to what you were saying about John to like releasing Sasquatch. That was super inspiring.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think Daryl, you've been talking about it for a while with John, like before you even made that picture, before I jumped in, right? Like I feel like you guys were hashing out ideas, stuff
I
like
think we
that.
had a couple conversations. Like I came into it like thinking, oh man, I want to write graphic novels, like right from the get-go, like Neil Gaiman, right? Like Neil Gaiman is a huge hero of mine. So Sandman, was where he got his start really in the writing world. So part of me was like, I just want to write graphic novels, and people were kind of like, well, graphic novel is like a bunch of comics put together, basically. Is kind of me needing to learn my own boundaries in terms of and rein in my ambition a little bit. That said, I hope one day to see the Fatal Charades in a collected volume that you could call a graphic novel, and you could pick up and you could read 100 pages of it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, I just remember seeing back to that Jack picture, right? That fox he sent to me.
Which is why
Yeah.
I pulled this up here so that everybody can see Jack
Yeah,
face.
thanks.
Yeah, that's Jack.
So there he is, and Daryl drew this picture of him, and it just looked cool. Like it's like I was just getting back into art, like full on, especially with teaching art again. So I was like, oh, I'll just try to draw it because I'd just been sketching random things. It's like, oh yeah, I'll try to draw that. I actually didn't necessarily draw it as like, I don't know, an application for the artist job.
Yeah, it was
But
just
then
for
I
the
said to
hell
you,
of it,
oh,
right?
this is kind of cool. I sent it to you, and then yeah, I remember you saying you want in, and then here
Well,
we are.
It was a potent moment for me seeing a character that meant something to me in terms of this story that I'd been building in my head, and then to see just what an artist can do. And I've been continually like that feeling has been a wave that's been coming in constantly as we went through this project. Just everything that I put down on paper originally, the world that I was trying to build and stuff, and then when Bob got a hold of it, it was one of the most satisfying feelings probably since having a daughter, that just seeing something that you made come to life. It was amazing.
Just wait until you see it in print and you can actually like read the book.
Yeah.
That is a moment I am definitely eagerly awaiting.
Which is going to happen. Going back to the Kickstarter, you're at 61% now, I think, of your final goal of $2,000.
Yeah, I think we're going to get there. Yeah. We still need a push, right? And I mean, that's part of what we're doing this for.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got to get it printed. That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
It's done. Like the comic's done. So for those of you who know as much about like the Kickstarter platform, you pledge a certain amount. You could pick a package. We have all the tiers, ranging from, I don't know what the cheapest. Well, I think you could get like a digital copy, ranging all the way up to like $6. But really, this is done. The project's done, so we're ready to print it. So that's really why we're reaching out. Asking everyone to help out. Like, let's get this thing going. And I was saying to John and Daryl too. Like, I think it's really cool that we can use a platform like this to get a comic printed, right? Like, it's you back this, and you're part of the team. Like you're part of this group making this happen. Like, it's a connected way to do it, right? You get connected with the artist, the writer,
way more intimate than just stepping into a comic shop. As awesome as it is, and I encourage everybody to step into a comic shop and spend some money. But there is an element to this where you're connecting to the creators directly. You're saying, I believe in you. And that means a lot, coming from a fellow human being. To have that backing and that anticipation and enthusiasm. And yeah, it's a way to be part of creating something that you're not going to get from Marvel. You're not going to get from DC. You're really only going to get it from independent creators who are running platforms like this. And it puts you in touch with them directly. It lets them know who you are. you know, that you specifically said, I want to be in on this. And it makes you a part of that original team that brought something to life. You know, in the same way that I saw Jack come to life, anybody who's helping out and pledging is helping bring him to life too. And, you know, I hope you do.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And like totally it brings me back to like when I first looked at that picture, Daryl, and like started drawing. Like it was when you started to give me some more details about the story, because like you really dreamed up a whole world here. I don't know if people understand that. Like we have one issue here, but Daryl dreamed up a whole world here. He's got different story arcs, different fantastical creatures. So like, yeah, I was on board right away. Like this is like once I committed.
I do recall you being enthused about the like the more. I do remember your enthusiasm being like a jump for the like the more fantastical elements of it, because like, yeah, I did a whole lot of world building for this. And for anybody out there who's like played Dungeons and Dragons or whatever, or, you know, you like Final Fantasy back in the day, Ninja Turtles, you know, all that stuff. This is where we're coming from. This is where we were as kids. And these are the you know, the media that helped shape this project. For me, especially, that like back in the, I don't even know what year it was made, but Robin Hood by Disney way back in the day, with Robin Hood as a fox, right? He's the main character is a fox, and that
I actually thought about that when you gave your first design for that character. It kind of reminded me of
that. That is straight up. That entered my childhood consciousness and remained for 20 to 30 years, and decided to bubble to the surface again with a much darker, much more ominous reiteration. Jack in our story is not a jolly kind of a guy. He's a grizzled war veteran. He's a hero of a previous conflict. But that being said, yeah, the original inspiration is coming at you from 1980s Disney style, you know.
Wicked.
Yeah, that's cool, Daryl. Hey, Daryl, tell us more about the story too, like for people who are like
jumping,
wondering what is this about.
Okay, so without trying to drop too much on y'all, the conception of the whole world is an ancient one. And it's a story of two continents at war, two ancient civilizations that both were ruled by very powerful wizards and mages. They formed empires and eventually came into conflict, and one eventually won that war and left the other in ruins. And where we start our story is about a few thousand years after that war. We're starting on the continent that was ruined. It has since sort of recollected itself. A human kingdom has sprung up. Our main character, Dacia, is the heir to the throne of that human kingdom. And that kingdom is left reckoning with the wreckage of that empire. And that empire involved mages that created life forms of their own. So like Jack, for example, is a foxkin. He is a part fox man, and that is a magical creation. They're only alive because of these ancient wizards that, who are long dead, started these races. Some of it was just whimsy, some of it was for labor, some of it was for entertainment. There are characters that were gladiators and only gladiators. There was an elephant man, in fact, who was born and bred to fight in an arena. But he is thousands of years old and still roaming this world that we have now. So you have a human kingdom with a very real sort of problem on its hands of how do we fit all of these different people into one organized, you know, political body. And it hasn't worked really well, honestly. It's like things in real life. It's difficult. It's messy. Right. So when you
just like fantastical creatures, it's like there's actually substance to the plot, right? It's more than just fantasy,
yeah,
right?
I mean, for me, my educational background is in human rights and criminology. So I spent a good deal of time learning about colonialism, stuff like that. And part of me wanted to replay some of those themes in this story. So you have an advanced empire that is essentially taking advantage of one that is far less advanced due to its former loss in a war. So there's definitely some echoes of our modern world that are going on there. Dacia herself is a young woman struggling to decide what she wants to be in the world. Jack is trying to find his place. Where does he fit in a human kingdom? Where he is very invested in the world as it is, but it's falling apart around him. His crew is eclectic sort of war buddies that surround him are along for the ride too, and each of them has their own backstory that is deep and connected to that world that I described before.
So then, speaking of world building, and there's you just mentioned a character that hasn't even appeared yet, or hasn't appeared in the first issue.
Right.
How many stories, how many arcs, how many issues do you actually already have mapped out, whether it's in your mind or outlined or whatever? Like, how big is this universe?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. So specific arc wise, I want to play on, I don't know if anybody remembers this sort of trope from RPG games back in the 90s. There would be 4 generals and then the big bad guy. So in our story, we have 4 generals and the big bad guy, and each general is a story arc in and of itself. So different villain each time, same heroes, different parts of the world, new heroes coming in, new characters being introduced during each arc. But the central theme of Jack and Dacia and Rook and Lull and those guys are going to be around throughout. But yeah, we move through different villainous iterations. So I want to say 6 issues per arc is what I'm thinking. I have all those arcs kind of mapped out already in my mind. Script wise written, we've written and completed the first issue. I'm ready to go anytime on, from here on out. But I definitely want people to know there's a lot more to come. If you get on board now, you're kind of onboarding at the beginning of a big story, and if you give us the chance to tell it, I think you will enjoy it. I think you'll become emotionally invested in these characters, and I think you will find great satisfaction in exploring the world that they inhabit.
Yeah, people get to be part of this, right? Like right from the start. That's a big deal. Yeah, so John's just scrolling through the Ash Can, which you guys could find on the Kickstarter. It's the first 6 pages. And just
you can get it on tardigradepress.net as well. It's on the splash page there.
Yeah, so that's great. Hey, as you guys are talking, I'm gonna pull up my picture here. I'm gonna start inking here.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right back.
And yeah, as someone who's backed, I think I'm at like 38 projects I've backed. Nice. I mean, they haven't all succeeded, but there is something very gratifying, even if like I gotta say, your book that you put together here is way better looking than some of the stuff that I purchased. But I mean, I will say that being a part of that sort of creation, because like sometimes I'll back a project because it's $45 away and it's like 1 hour left to go, and I will specifically back it, even if it's not something that necessarily appealed to me, just to get them over that last hump.
That makes you an awesome dude.
And it feels good to do it too, because that, I mean, as someone with Sasquatch Klondike 1 and 2 with Chad, that there is always a moment of doubt with any campaign, and it comes around this time. Actually, you have 17 days left to go.
I think so.
This is what they call the dead zone. And I mean, you'll make it, but there's always that shred of doubt that maybe you won't. And to feel it dissolve when you finally Sasquatch Klondike 1, we got there within like 72 hours or something ridiculous like that. I don't know how we pulled it off.
So fast.
Yeah,
it was great.
But number 2, it was definitely like right close to the end where we finally made it. So that sense of relief, and to know that you can supply that sense of relief to a creative team. So I'm just telling everybody, go back this project. The link is in the description down below in the video here. We got some comments. Tardigrade Press said, "Hey guys, the last 100 meters of the Fatal Charades Kickstarter will be an epic finish. Be a part of this amazing journey." So pretty much exactly like what I was just iterating. Then we got a viewer question from Melissa Cassidy. She is wanting to know, who is your favorite comic book creator or artist, and why? Do you draw inspiration from them for your work on Fatal Charades? And that applies to each of you separately. So, Daryl, you answer first.
Okay. For me, Neil Gaiman is who pulls me into the comic world. I know that he is maybe not everybody's first choice in I don't know, in the modern comic environment. But for me,
I think he's a lot of people's first choice, actually. Yeah. Like I feel like he's probably one of the top 10 writers, at least, of comics.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I'm coming at this as a writer. So for me, he's heroic. Yeah, that's what I'm just saying, Neil Gaiman. And did he inspire the Fatal Charades? He inspired me personally as a writer. A lot of his projects and his novels have inspired me. So in that sense, yeah. Not really story-wise. I wouldn't say there are any parallels, I don't think, in terms of stories he's told versus the one that we're telling here. If there are, please feel free to point them out to me. I'd be interested.
He's kind of far out. Like, I don't really think that you could compare his work to anybody else's. So yeah, especially not your own, right? Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to try to, if anything, it would be standing on the shoulders of giants rather than standing beside them. So yeah.
Right. So, okay, Neil Gaiman, which that is how you pronounce it, by the way. I watched a video interview with him talking about how somebody educated him on how to pronounce his own name.
Yeah.
It's Neil Gaiman. And he's like, no, it's not Neil Gaiman. It's Neil. I'm not going to impersonate the accent. All right. So, Bob, what about you?
Mike Mignola. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. It might be Mike Mignola.
I've heard both.
Yeah, I hear both too. So Mignola is the one that I used first. So he would be my primary one. Jeff Lemire is also huge for me. Like he's inspires me like crazy. The story
both of those are evident in your work. There was something that you sent as a preview of one of the characters. He kind of has like an oddly shaped head. I can't even remember what his name is. He comes into the room to Dacia. Anybody?
Oh, yeah, that would be Nath.
Right, Nath.
Yeah,
okay, so
sorry.
Nath. When I saw the first image of Nath, I was just like, that looks like Bob's illustrating a Jeff Lemire character, but doing it in his own style. You know what I mean? So like where you're feeding off of somebody else's style to create your own.
Yeah.
I also,
sure.
Nath is a bastard too.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. Pull up. Oh, I was just gonna say I'm gonna pull up this the preview again. The whatchamacallit.
Oh yeah, is he in the first 6 pages? I think he is.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Might be.
Oh, maybe not.
No, not in the first 6 pages.
We don't get him in there. I think he might be on the Kickstarter page though.
Might be. He's on the Fatal Charades Instagram somewhere.
Yeah.
In mine.
Yeah, like the concept art.
Concept, yeah.
But another thing I was going to say is that you can actually see some of the Mignola in here as well, with the heavy line work and the heavy inks. Because I've only read some Hellboy, but I mean I know it, right? And I can definitely see some Mignola in your work as well.
Yeah, he's such an inspiration. Like that guy is such a his darks are fantastic the way he inks everything. Yeah, the bold lines. I love all of his work, and yeah, I pull from that for sure with my style.
Yes, and
So
look
yeah,
at
those would
how
be the two
friggin'
biggest.
wicked this art is, people.
So, do you have any story about this character here?
This is Dacia. Wait a minute, what are
Oh,
we
it is.
looking at here? Are we looking at my drawing?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
got you in solo view now while
yeah,
you're
okay.
inking.
Yeah, this is the one of the protagonists, I guess. Her and Jack are the key characters in the story.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, I don't, Daryl, you're probably better at explaining this
Sure.
character.
If you were looking at Dacia right now as Bob's drawing her, you would probably this would be in the middle of the book probably. Um, she is the remaining heir to the throne of the Kingdom of Astrea. Her parents, um, in the opening act of this story, she loses both her parents. Really, the last person she has to rely on is Jack and his little band of former squad mates from a previous war, who have been essentially turned into the Royal Guard as a reward for their previous service. So she is cloaked in Jack's cloak here. And it would be in the middle of her escape from the castle as she attempts to flee what is a coup by a vile advisor.
And there's some bonus
Right.
character elements here too, which you'll see later on with like some of the magic effects that I'll do.
Indeed, yes. There's a lot of magic in this world. It flows from various sources. Our villains are heavily wreathed in magic. Magic on the continent of Apeiron, which is where Astrea is almost like a dead art, almost like a forgotten art, and very few people know much about it. The ones who do know much about it don't talk much about it. But there is a connection to Dacia's family line that leans into that a little bit, and it is a surprise to her as much as anyone.
Cool. Yeah. So now that you're kind of elaborating a little bit more on the complexity of this universe, one thing that I'm wondering is, what's your process in coming up with all this stuff? I guess that's like the easiest way for me to put it. Especially like the more complex a universe, the more methodical you kind of have to be with keeping everything clear and straight in your own mind or on paper or whatever you're doing. What is your process?
For me, outlining is the very first thing that I do, and that is I try to make it more or less linear, but there's sort of an impossibility to that when you're just sort of coming up with facts about a thing. Some of it is just stream of consciousness kind of stuff that I refine a little bit later. But I love outlining. Actually, I love the broad strokes of creating a sweeping world. It's what drew me to like D&D and stuff like that, or like Final Fantasy back in the day. It's just this sense that there is much more to this place, that there are secrets hiding, in the shadows and under the rocks and in the past. So for me, that was a lot of fun, and a lot of the ideas were born and bred like while I would be at work or something. I tend to lean heavy into work where I work on my own. I'll throw in a pair of headphones and some music, and I will just jam out in my brain, trying to develop storylines. And it helps to be doing something physical, frankly, like walking, doing whatever. But it helps the ideas flow freely. Then I come home and I try my best to replicate what was in there.
Okay. Bob, I'm going to ask you the same question. about your process. I know it's going to be very different from what Daryl just described.
Yeah. So I would get the pages from Daryl, and then I would just read through it. And in my mind, I would start to imagine how those could start to form different panels. Because the way Daryl did it, he left, and we talked about it. Like he asked me like how I prefer to do it. And for this one, I asked to have it kind of more open, like a lot of freedom, I guess, for the artist. So he would send me his general storyline for a page. I would map it out into different panels first. Like that would be the first thing. So if I see something like a paragraph that represents a panel, I would write down panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, whatever. So I would do that first. And then often I would have questions for Daryl. So I just run a couple things by him. That was the other cool thing about this, just because we're friends. Like we talk often, so anytime I had any questions, I could just bring them right to Daryl. So that would be part of the process.
Yep. Yeah, we just bounce back and forth constantly.
Totally, which was so useful. Like, in terms of like, I don't know, being as creative as possible. Sometimes there's different things.
And then like it helps shape the vision in a more personal way too. It's not so prescribed as I made this script, now you must draw exactly what I say kind of deal. Like there was a lot of joy, I will tell you, in art coming back that like wasn't something I anticipated or had explicitly said in some way, shape, or form. And I've written some more stuff since then, and other artists like to work in different ways. Some of them do prefer a very prescribed, panel for panel layout, which is cool. It's fun to write that way too. I really enjoyed the style like that Bob and I developed, because as a writer, it gave me a lot of freedom to just kind of rock a page, action points, wham bam, and then Bob doing the paneling and deciding how many panels or whatever was a weight off of me that is maybe an unfair weight onto him, in retrospect. But this was our first comic that we made too. So like me scripting was coming from a place of a person who'd never written a script before. So, to those people out there, if you're out there and you want to write comics, there isn't really a singular prescribed script methodology. Like people who tell you that there is are probably trying to sell you a book to teach you how to write a script. But if
the book is any good, it'll tell you all the different possible methods and the array, right. So like spectrum.
Yes, and in my experience, my limited experience, to be quite fair, there are different ways to do it. I spoke with actually the former manager of Heroes, Christopher Runsman, about writing for a little while. I went to an event with him and Chad Leduc, and I went up there of Tardigrade Press. We hung out with Christopher for the day, and I asked him about his script writing, and he's like, I'll show you what one of my scripts looks like. And he flips a page and he sketches out 6 quick thumbnails and he scribbles a few words above each thumbnail, and that was his script.
Well, so that's the benefit of being basically a one-man show, right? Like he draws all of his own stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one extreme, and then on the other extreme, you have very highly detailed, almost what I would say screenplay-like stuff.
Yeah, I did that to Chad. I mean, I'm sure you read it, right? The scripts for both of those books, and it's like very much like a screenplay. Didn't leave a lot of space, unfortunately.
I'm working on a book right now where someone prefers that way of writing. So, I'm having to learn to sort of refine my looseness a little bit and sharpen up a little bit that way too. So, you're always learning, you're always growing. So.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I would ask for more direction too, right? But that was because I knew that like the way we decided to do this was just like, we're going to have a dialogue about it. Right. Like, so anytime I was unclear about something, we just talk about it.
Which you're going to miss, by the way, Daryl, when you're working for one of the big three. There are certain projects where a writer and an artist have actually literally never met. and they don't talk once during the whole process because they're just like pumping it out, right? So
yeah, which is amazing to me, because even the project I'm working now, the person who I'm working with is in Austria, and we were only talking through WhatsApp basically.
Right.
So that is a challenge in and of itself. But yeah, I cannot. It's hard for me to imagine not being able to have a dialogue with a fellow creator. Maybe it's something I've leaned on a little too heavily. I don't know, but it was a fantastic thing to have going with Bob for this. One, because we're friends, and it was just friggin' fun to make a comic with your buddies. Johnny did the lettering for this too, guys. We haven't mentioned that yet, so he's in on this one too. He too was one of our childhood friends. In fact, the very first Dungeons and Dragon game I ever played, Johnny was the dungeon master.
Was I?
Yeah, man, you were, and you did a far better job than the next dungeon master that I had, who was awful.
We can say his name. There's no chance he's watching this. Like,
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, well, Craig. It was a guy named Craig, and he was really bad. He was one of those guys that he wants to lash out at the players, and he turns it into a you versus the DM kind of a game, which isn't any fun. Sorry for talking D&D shit if people aren't into it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, you can tell with this book that there's D&D sort of elements to it, right? The whole fantasy thing. So yeah, you can talk about D&D all you want.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, John.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned that like your style with Sasquatch with Chad was different. It was more like a script. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Like it basically reads exactly like a script.
So would you change it next time? Like, what would be your approach?
I probably would, yeah. Like, well, I mean, it depends on the artist, right? And Chad can definitely hold his own. So I didn't have to be as hyper descriptive, like with over the shoulder shot of so-and-so with so-and-so like 5 meters from them. You don't have to be that specific with an artist who can hold his own. Sometimes maybe you do have to be that specific if you're just working with an artist for the first time, as long as you're sure to tell them this is, I'm being very specific in case you want it, but go ahead and make some changes, right?
Yeah.
But even then, you planted this idea in the artist's head. If you've been that descriptive about each and every single panel, you planted that seed and kind of like squashed their creativity in the process, right? I mean, even giving them that freedom, it's still, you've given them the image, so they're not likely to go other places with it unless it's really a different idea from what you had. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely change that moving forward.
I mean, it worked for you though. The book came out well.
That's true. Yeah, it did.
So like, yeah, I think again, yeah, you're right. It comes down to just the artists, what level of freedom they want to express themselves with, right? Like, yeah, Bob is very comfortable with that, which I am thankful for, because it helps me to just kind of guide things along story wise, and then let the art do some of that storytelling for you. That's what this is all about, really. That's what comics are all about, is that visual storytelling. And the writer is there, I'm always there in the background, but at the same time, it's not finished until the artist touches it. It doesn't come to life until the artist puts their hand to it. And when they do, it's friggin' magic.
Absolutely. Speaking of art, let's give Bob the screen again. See how it's going over there.
Nice.
Indeed.
I like seeing a little bit of magic expression from our young hero here.
Which we may as well go back into the contest again for those of you just joining us. If anybody wasn't here at the beginning, you have the opportunity to win this piece when it's completely done. All you have to do is be here, which Daryl, who just joined the conversation, says, "Coming along nicely, Bob." I don't know. Do you know Daryl?
If it's our good friend, it may be our friend Darsar.
That would be Darsar.
Yeah, buddy. We know Darsar. He has been an ardent supporter since this got going. thanks so much, man, for being there for us. We appreciate it a lot.
And Chad from Tardigrade Press just added, Dr. Rock wants more scripting for his first book. Some liked less like Kirill. Is that for SV #1?
Yeah.
How do you pronounce that?
I believe it is Kirill. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so anyway, you have the opportunity to win this piece. If you back their Kickstarter project, which is in the description, there's a link below. You get 3 entries. You get another entry just for being here. You get another entry if you go follow Bob Little Art on Instagram and give one of his posts a like and make sure to comment I want in or add me to the contest or whatever. Do the same thing with the Fatal Charades Instagram, the same thing with the Fatal Charades Facebook. And that's a total of, what is that, 7 possible entries to win this piece of art. There's another piece of art that's available that is strictly for backers. It's the same process though, but if you're a backer, you get entered to win that, which is just pencils at the moment, but that is Jack from Fatal Charades. So that'll be fully inked and everything. And there's also, you'll have to go back to the beginning of the video because I'm not going to show them again, but there are 3 comics that are going with that one. So there's your ways of entering and winning. Let's get back into the conversation here. We talked about your plans for moving forward with Fatal Charades.
Yep.
Let's talk about Kickstarter. I mean, we already did, but let's talk about it again. We talked about the alternative, how it's you know, more intimate or whatever. There's deeper connection.
Yeah, it's a super low risk for both creators and consumers, which I think is a great thing. You know, if the project doesn't fund, you don't get charged. It's as simple as that. If it does, you helped make a comic book, which is awesome.
Yeah, all right, that's fair. So we let's see here.
Just another benefit to those viewing right now. There's also some comics that are being given away for pledgers up until Sunday at 9 p.m.
Oh, yes.
If you were to go over to tardigradepress.net and check the Water Bear blog on number 4, there are some details about a comic giveaway that Chad over at Tardigrade, Chad Leduc, is offering up. They are good friends of his. They are cool books. I can give you the actual titles. Yeah, I'll get back to you with that in a second.
Well, I will show them. Just give me
okay. That helps.
Now, this isn't to discourage people from actually going over to tardigradepress.net, but those are the 2 books. There's the great Casey Parsons signed. I think that's signed, right?
Yeah, they're both signed. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Swamp Thing #9 from, I think that's the 80s at some point.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big Swamp Thing
up at FanCon in Toronto, I believe. He's friends with both these guys.
Cool. Yep. So there are the 2 books that you could potentially win. There's a different set of rules to go with that, but let's say this as added incentive. This you put yourself in for this contest that we're running here. You're also putting yourself in for that one by backing.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah, that's like 3 different things you could be winning by backing. Basically now until, what is it, Sunday 9 p.m.
Sunday at 9.
Yeah, that's right.
9 p.m.
And then for us, I'm off Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week. So if we want to do the draw on Wednesday, we can do that for this one. If we want to give it a little bit more time, I can't tell you what my schedule is quite yet.
Wednesday works well for me.
Perfect. Then we shall do that.
All right. Yeah, people. So get over there to Kickstarter, make a pledge. You got a lot of options to win some cool stuff. Both those books are awesome. Bob's art is fantastic, and I think that grabbing an early piece in the career of Bob Little will be well worth the effort of just trying to enter this contest. I mean, this guy's killing it. He made what I wrote look so friggin' cool that yeah, I can't help but want to see him skyrocket.
Thanks, man.
And we got Alex Big Blue showed up. He's been a supporter of comics altruism since basically the very beginning. So hello, Alex. Welcome.
Hey, Alex.
Yeah, so something that I have to add for the comics altruism side of the contest, you can back on any tier. So that includes digital. I'm paying the shipping, so you don't have to worry about that. If you're backing on a digital, on the digital tier, we'd still send you the prize. It's not like you have to buy the physical tier, which would obviously make more logistical sense for you. You probably want the physical book in your possession because there's just something so much more satisfying about that.
Yeah,
but
you want the physical book.
I have backed a bunch of projects on just the digital tier because the shipping from the United States to Canada, and then I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus because I can't remember anybody's name offhand, but some of them you can tell they just did not do any research into shipping, and they're trying to charge like $25 US shipping for a single comic book to Canada. And it's like, no, it does not cost that much. And I'm not going to pay you that money because you clearly didn't do your research and realize that it can be done for like $7 US, maybe even less. Cause like, I know that Chad and I were able to send to the US for, I think it was like 7 Canadian, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that.
As I understand it, those numbers are closer to correct. I believe it's changed a little bit under current conditions.
Yeah, like
I know
COVID.
Certainly printing comics, the cost has gone up significantly in the last even year.
Oh yeah, like paper shortages and stuff.
Yeah, so that kind of stuff has affected logistical stuff. But you're right, it would be for us to say send a comic to somebody in Australia or something, they would be paying like $60 for
it is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
but the US Canada thing is not as heavy as some Kickstarters make it seem.
Yeah, and it's not necessary to hit people that hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like I have to wonder if some of these creators are pocketing the extra money. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. It actually leads me to a question that I had about your Kickstarter. Where's the funding going? Like for the $2,000 goal, and then perhaps if you are to surpass it with stretch goals and so on, where is this money? What's it being used for?
Okay. So predominantly the costs of printing are making up the bulk of this. And then we have our publishers like fees basically, and their contributions. Like Tardigrade put some investment into getting this project out there. Absolutely. Chad did a lot of legwork. Personally, the comics that he's offering up, are coming out of his pocket and stuff like that. So Tardigrade worked hard for us on that. So there's an allocation that way. Bob and I did all of this work basically on faith ahead of time. I'm not super concerned about profiting heavily myself, but I would really love to see Bob be rewarded for this hard work that he's put in. That is frankly on a level of professional comic book art, and he deserves the wages that a professional comic book artist would charge. And I would like to see him get that. If we were to exceed our goals, I think it would just go into the next project. I think it would go into making, helping me get the time to write it, Bob the time to draw it, and then pushing it out there. Yeah.
Which reminds me, a question for you as a writer. You have other titles. There's no, like everybody knows that with the Sasquatch Vikings #1 at least.
Yep.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about? That maybe in just the writing process at the moment, but I mean, anything you want to plug?
Let me quickly throw that to Bob. Bob, do you think it's okay to talk about it or no? Do you want?
Oh yeah, it's fine. You're talking about Saul.
Yeah. So another project that Bob and I are working on together is called Saul 69. It is taking the biblical figure of Solomon, the wise king or whatever from the Old Testament, turning him a lot more hardcore. I mean, those of you familiar with any of those Old Testament stories know that it's pretty kind of hardcore already. But Solomon, one of the more things that I feel nobody says anything about is that he summoned all these demons all the time. He had a magic ring, in fact, that he used to summon demons and control demons. So I took that idea of Solomon, the demon summoning wizard, and made him ageless, and we track him through time as he goes about attempting to help solve some problems that he himself created by summoning demons, and a connection to like a hell plane that gets created through his magical experiments. So he's kind of moving through time through all these different time periods, attempting to sort of correct his own mistakes and help out mankind where he can. So our first iteration of that is set in 1969 in California. Yeah, I think that sums it up pretty nicely without going too far into full out plot details.
Yeah, people will love it. The script is fantastic. Yeah, I can't really reveal too much either, but I mean, yeah, people will love it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the character is iconic just due to the historical connection that you get there. It's not religious in any sense at all. So, both my condolences and apologies to people if they were looking for that. It's not there. You're not going to get lectured on Jesus at all, I'm afraid. But you are going to get a historical figure that has been vastly reimagined. Yeah.
Great. Look forward to that. Speaking of colorful characters, I have a question. What is your favorite character to write and why? Of the Fatal Charades.
Actually, she hasn't made her appearance yet. She appears in issue 2 if we get the chance to tell the story for issue 2. Is a dryad, actually, a female dryad assassin named Smoke Shadow. If you look on the Fatal Charades Instagram page, you can see some concept art for her, but yeah, she has not appeared yet. She's my favorite because of her backstory. It's a long one. It's controversial, and she is a damaged person, which is what makes her a good killer. But yet she has this strong loyalty and friendship and camaraderie with the rest of Jack and the crew. So look for her in the future. If I were to have to pick for this issue, I would have to say Jack is still my favorite. There's just a part of my heart. Yeah, there we go. That's her. So yeah, she is a dryad from sort of a mythical forest setting. She uses these different masks made of wood from her mother tree. Each mask has different sort of attributes. One is for war, one is for hunting, stuff like that. So each one kind of melds with her face and imbues her with these properties. And she is a badass fighter, maybe the best in the world.
All right, kick ass. All right, I got no more questions for you. Oh, I do have one more question for you. This one's coming from my wife. If you were a fruit, what kind of fruit would you be and why?
Wait, if I was a fruit?
Yeah, fruit.
I think I would be a pomegranate.
Well,
I don't know why. I just that old Conan TV show, the cartoon.
Yeah.
No.
Conan the Adventurer.
No, there was this. Yeah, there was. Yeah. Okay. So in that there was this phoenix that was sort of like a sidekick to Conan, and he loved to eat pomegranates. And for some reason, the pomegranate has entered into my consciousness as a delicious and wonderful fruit, thanks to Conan.
Wow.
Have you ever actually had a pomegranate?
No, I don't think I have.
I don't think anybody has. I think that's just a myth.
Dragon fruit sounds really
It's
cool
such a phony.
too.
Oh, there you go. So, Bob, you picked dragon fruit?
I pick Fruit Loops. I would be.
Doesn't really count, but I dig it.
Thank you for that, Alyssa.
Is there anything else that we want to? We're at exactly an hour right now. First thing,
Okay.
I'm going to give you all a couple more minutes. You want to comment in the live chat right now, because otherwise, so we got Alex Big Blue, we've got Darsar, we've got Alyssa Cassidy, who would probably forego the prize. We've got Garrett Geimer.
Hey Garrett, that's cool.
We got Richard Blythe. He's got really good luck for winning contests.
Yeah, Richard
Blythe,
is a pleasure already too. So thank you, Richard.
But the number of people who are actually viewing, hey, there's Josh R. Comics and Gaming just in time. We've got more viewers than the number of people commenting. So some of you who might be watching right now, you won't be entered into the comments version, or the be here, for one entry. So go ahead and comment within the next couple of minutes, because we're about to sign off. Otherwise, everybody just read the description below. That's all your other ways of entering are listed there. And then I may as well show these comics off again, because Josh, hey, there's Dave Black. Hey, D, looking forward to this.
Hey, thanks, Dave.
So yeah, since both of you are new to you might be new to the stream, but at the very least, you're new to the comments. We're also adding 3 comics. I might change it up and actually do the best one from the other lot. But either way, go back and watch. But there's Moon Knight number 14, first appearance of Morpheus. Solid copy. We got X-Men 166, first appearance of Lockheed. And thirdly, just because it's shiny, Spectacular Spider-Man number 200. Those will be going with the second prize, which Bob already showed you. So far, it's just penciled, but it's an image of Jack from Fatal Charades. And in order to get entered to that, you have to be a backer, and you have to leave a comment below saying that you're a backer. How do you guys want to handle that? Any new backers maybe also get entered, regardless of whether or not they've seen the stream? It's up to you.
I think that's cool. As long as Bob's okay with it, it's his art.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
All right, so new backers to the project also get entered to win either piece of art plus those 3 comic books. I think pomegranates are too much work for the record. That's what Dave Black says, and I absolutely agree. I've never had a pomegranate myself either, but yeah, that's why actually. It's what am I even going to do with this?
It's are you kidding me? Why would you do that?
Hey, look, the Phoenix made them look really good. Okay.
Before we sign off, I must say Alyssa Cassidy added, "I would be a banana because I'm appealing." With 3 exclamation points.
Wow. That was a big build-up just for that comment.
Right? And I think it's a great way to close off the stream. We may as well end on a down note, right?
Yeah, totally.
Okay. Everybody, the link to the Kickstarter is in the description below, so head over there and back on any tier. But especially
share it to your nerd friends, people.
Sorry, say that again, Bob.
I'm just saying, share it to everyone watching.
Absolutely.
Yeah, help us out. Share it to anyone you think might be interested.
Yeah, when you back on Kickstarter, it gives you the option of sharing the project. You can share it to Facebook. I think that's the only one that everybody uses, because they don't allow you to share it to Instagram. But you can take your Facebook post and share that to Instagram, I believe. But whatever. Share it as well. I mean, the prices for your comics here are reasonable, especially considering the paper shortages and stuff that we were just talking about. $8 Canadian for a comic is not completely unheard of. In fact, I think it's still lower than the average that's going around on Kickstarter right now. I know there are certain projects that I specifically haven't backed because they're asking $15 for a 24-page book, but these guys are selling for the same price that you would pick up how many pages is it? 24?
26.
26.
Yeah, so they're selling it for about what you would get at a comic book store anyway. So it's not like just because it's a Kickstarter you have to spend out the Yep. All right.
Any support is greatly appreciated, guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Okay, signing off. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope to see this thing explode.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thanks.
See ya.